Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. We've got an Atlantic League game today. Tim Furrow against Scott Senen. This is a recorded game. A couple of great players. This is a Group A matchup. Both players in contention for a playoff spot, and so hoping we'll get a good one today. This was played on Sunday. So, without further ado, let us get started here. And there we go. We'll be watching from Tim's side today. Tim is playing as the USSR and has, after a recent run of bad luck, has changed his username to Poppycock. That is his new account. So we will see how that works out for him. Tim is off to a strong start in Atlantic League, so he's got a good chance to make the playoffs. Tim right now is 3-1, and Scott is 4-1. So both of them are in good position in Group A, but a lot of work left to do for both of them. We'll be watching on 1.5 speed here. So Tim's hand is pretty much garbage. So blockade headline makes sense here. It's the only reasonable headline. Korean War actively harms him. So, okay, Suez, probably not the card that he was wanting to see. Tim is not a fan of cooing. I'm going to turn the volume down just a little bit. Turn down the volume just a little bit. And so we will just, so that you guys just hear my voice instead of the sound effects of the game. Okay, I'm just changing the screen over a little bit so that, come on, just so you don't see how long the video is, that's all. I don't want to ruin it. Don't want to ruin the surprise for you guys. Okay. We've got it down a little bit. There we go. Back. Here we go. So, yes, Harry, thank you for joining. Nice coup. So Tim decided to, despite what I just said, go for the coup of Iran. Needed a 5, actually rolled a 6. So a one-op coup of Iran pays off big time for Tim. Tim, no doubt happy to see that, but probably not particularly pleased with the rest of his hand. He's stuck with CIA, which is a one-op play. Okay, wow, big coup coming back, and there's a 3. Yeah, Tim won't be cooing that. So Tim has got a one-op play with CIA, a one-op play with Korean War, a one-op play with C5, and a 3-op play with Marshall, and he's got a score. So not much he's going to accomplish here. Wow. Oh, and he invents C5. Very interesting play. And he hits Europe. Okay, and Scott going to get in there with De Gaulle, and that was actually an unfortunate moment in my game with Ted last night. I was we had our opponent destalled into an empty France. We had De Gaulle. We triggered it to make it 3-2, and then our opponent took it with China. Now, of course, that option is not available to Tim because he is purged. So Tim is instead going to have to do this, try and get Middle East off for even and accept that he's dominated in Europe. Okay, yep, and Scott going to get out of Iran, which makes sense, and take Europe dom. Tim dumps Middle East for even. I expect we'll see Scott dump Europe. Yep, sure he will. Tim, I would think, will want to get rid of CIA here. Yep, okay, so gets it out. I don't want to say free, but pretty harmlessly. We'll see if Scott wants a coup. Yeah, just goes ahead and takes the coup to pick up a VP. Algeria is reasonable here. Lebanon would have also been okay, but I suppose as would South Korea. But I suppose with Middle East scored, it's not that important. Okay, big old 4-op. Yeah, India, Lebanon, Algeria, and Malaysia. So a good play there from Scott. And Tim, yeah, no choice but to put one in South Korea. Yeah, really tough turn for Tim. Let's see if turn 2 can wind up better for him. Okay, he winds up with defectors, duck, and destall, which could make things interesting. So AI War is a reasonable headline, but yeah, I think destall is good here. With duck in hand, you can play duck for ops if you need to. You can just take a coup otherwise. And interestingly, Scott, although he has spread in Asia, he has not taken another country. So a headline here of Asia scoring, Tim's going to be able to get domination. Decall is gone, and Vietnam could well be in Scott's hand. So we'll see what Scott goes with. Obviously, there are other good choices. Containment is gone. Marshall is gone, as are Europe and Middle East. So obviously, Purge gone as well. So maybe not too many good choices. Yeah, Olympic Games. Okay, so not a lot of good choices, but with Duck in Tim's hand as well. Okay. Yeah, a good question about Warsaw, James. But Warsaw is around. So, okay, Venezuela, Angola for sure. He's going to participate in the Olympic Games. Okay. Wow, 2 Thailand? I don't understand that at all. I don't understand that at all. Yeah, oops. There's a mistake. If that is a fine play if you are going to coup, but instead Tim plays duck for ops. Yeah, that extra ops should have gone Chile. So Tim destalls and he picks up Thailand, so he's ahead in Asia. Gets into Angola, Venezuela, gets his foothold in those regions, but of course, the bigger problem is Tim is down 13 VPs. So that is rough. Being down 13 VPs on turn 2. Tim really needs to score an Asia domination. Yep, and sure enough, there's Warsaw. So now Tim not going to be able to get NATO out for free. Yeah, I think I think the 2 Thailand was fine, and then you just take a coup of Panama with NATO, and then spread later, or you go 1 Thailand, get 1 into Chile, and then you use duck for ops to lock up Thailand and take Asia Dom. Now Tim also, to be fair, needed to take South Korea. The war was gone. So Tim definitely on the back foot here, but has an opportunity to solidify the early war, the mid-war regions here. He can at least pick up Zaire, Angola, Venezuela, Brazil, at least get a foothold there after his destall. And he really wants to score an Asia Dom, but I'm not sure he's going to be able to do it. I suspect that if Scott had Asia, he would have probably dumped it for -3 right away. And Scott can just take Malaysia, Philippines, Indonesia, India, and there's not a lot Tim can do about that. So I don't know if Tim's going to pick up an Asia Dom at all. So Tim can hold defectors if he so desires. Don't believe we've seen special. Interesting. To Afghanistan instead of India suggests he's afraid of the war. Tim has another war, tries it, misses. That would have been a big one to hit before Scott got into Egypt, but he does get his 2 mil-ops. Oh, and Scott does have Asia. Okay, and just gets it off for -1 as opposed to the -3 it would have been if he'd scored it right away. So good on Scott, recognizing that his hand was good enough to fight in Asia. Yeah, do not believe we've seen special relationship yet. So Tim hanging on to NATO, and maybe we will see. I think I'd like to see us take Saudi by the end of the turn, but that's not likely to happen now. That's Fidel going to space. Scott hits the roll, so he's now going to be able to get double space if he wants it. Oh, I don't like that at all. I don't like that at all. I do not like spacing defectors on turn 2 if you can help it. Much rather space NATO, play Formosan, hold defectors if that was our plan. Just don't want to have to worry about it in the mid-war. But yeah, Tim here is going to have to hold... is going to want to hold NATO. We haven't seen special. Okay, and there's Middle East Dom. Yeah, we could even see an Iraq poke. An Iraq poke and an immediate Middle East scoring would put Scott on the doorstep. That would be a 7 VP scoring. That and space would be GG. Okay, Vietnam, that's not going to affect domination. So all 3 early war regions score, and instead he goes for the right long-term play, which is to take Libya with Nasser coming. Okay, here we are, turn 3, and a lot of blue cards here for Tim. He redraws Duck. I don't think he'll be giving Duck for ops this time. And notably, Scott has special. And he knows that Tim has NATO. So we could see a little chicken game going on here. And really no great headlines here for Tim. Independent Reds is gone, so Romanian's safe. But yeah, I think you have to try IP war. Oh, and there's Middle East. Oh, okay, he hits the war on India with a 5. But yeah, there's 4 points on Middle East. That would have been 7 if with an Iraq poke. Tim going to try a coup, flips over Panama. Okay, so Tim down 12 VPs. Not particularly good shape to be in, and meaning Scott gets Middle East is scored twice before Nasser is played, so sort of frustrating for Tim. Asia tied 5 countries to 5. Tim with plenty of ops, but he's got a lot of blue cards, and he's got some awkwardness here. He's would have wanted to space NATO, I think. I would have much rather have defectors than NATO in my hand here. With Scott having a known special relationship, unless I missed something. Possible that Scott played special, but I don't believe he did. Okay, going to protect Pakistan from the flip and overprotect France. Interesting, decide to overprotect France instead of getting one into India. But okay, maybe Scott's hand is limited. Now, Tim takes domination of Asia. He's got 7 countries now to just 5 for Scott. Scott will need a 4-op in order to stop Dom. And yeah, Tim is gonna have to play NATO. He's gonna have to space Duck. Unless we see some crazy China card play. And there's SOC-Govs for 2 more VPs for Scott. Man, VP track really getting out of control for Tim earlier as he pulls one, Tim here as he pulls one back. There goes Fidel to space. Okay, he misses on that one. I wonder if Romanian might have been worth an event. Oh, okay, well, just going to space captured Nazi. Going to trigger captured Nazi, rather. I think I would have triggered it before spacing SOC-Govs. Or no, I guess he wanted to make sure he didn't run into a situation where he couldn't space Fidel. So okay. There's Nasser. So Scott wins the chicken game. I wonder if we'll see a poke of UK here with NATO. It probably depends on what. Yeah, that's right, Jeremy. I would have done CNS Fidel sock ups. That is what I would have done to guarantee yourself the 2 VPs, and then you get 2 shots at it. I agree with you. That's how I would have done. I don't know if the last card is known, and again, I could be wrong. It's possible Scott played special before, but I don't think he did. And Tim now thinking about playing China because he really doesn't want to give these VPs. Yeah. Okay. So thinking about a poke in UK, I like a third in Venezuela. Yeah. Maybe a second in Angola, although that obviously not nearly as important for USSR. Interestingly, Tim does not have access to Greece or Turkey. So not really any options to fight for Europe Dom, or rather fight off Europe Dom. Okay, that's interesting. This concedes that would concede 2 VPs anyway, because I'm sure you'll eat a coup in South America. Okay, that one a little more conservative. Okay. So that makes sense. So that card that may have been known. So now, and if Scott wants to get special off, he's got to put all 3 of those back in the UK. So certainly one of these will go to France. Oh, okay. Yeah, and it's fine. Okay. So here we are, turn 4, and Scott gets a nice hand here. Gets Missile Envy with We Will Bury You, so he can headline that if he wants to. He gets Junta, which is great. I don't know that he needs to headline it, though. Libs is nice. Quag is nice. Yeah, lots of good choices here. Yeah, Missile Envy, probably not a great card to headline into Headline Peak. Puppets obviously has to go to space. I guess you could give Puppets instead of Nuke Subs. So Fidel is gone. So Libs is going to be key to getting Tim into Cuba. Junta will get him into the other half of South America. I'm a little surprised Tim's going with Quagmire instead of Junta. Maybe he's a little afraid of defectors, which he would not have to be if he had held on to it through the reshuffle. Perhaps he also wants a chance to fix any damage. done by Scott's headline, although Junta would again help with that by lowering DEFCON. Yeah, CRGs, that's not what Tim wants to see, certainly. So I think you just coup, right? And then you fix. And you give up Nigeria. So you could coup Angola with C5, or you could junta into South America and coup Mexico. And then, yeah, I don't. Oh, and he rolls a 6. Huge roll. Okay, goes into Argentina. All right, so there he goes. And now you'll use a 4-op. Clearly 1 Angola, 1 Lao, 1 Chile, and 1 somewhere else, probably 1 South Africa. Yeah. Okay. As CRGs go, that was pretty painless for Tim. You could, I suppose it's possible you could see a flip of Angola and then 1 in Nigeria. Okay. Going to take Nigeria and break Mexico. Maybe thinking about setting up realigns here, but Tim has libs, so he can use that to make Scott's life difficult in the Americas, and I think that's exactly what he's going to do here. Okay, so here we go. Scott now in some trouble in both Americas. Tim with not a lot of ops here, and he's got some obligations as well. Nuke subs is a big problem for him, given the state of Africa, which is on a knife's edge, as it always seems to be. Okay, going to realign Cuba. There's 1, and he clears it out with a 6-1. Okay, that gives Tim a little bit of breathing room. And Tim coups. Okay, yep, going to coup Cameroon to get his mill ops. This will, oh, yuck. The ABM, wow, an ABM into Argentina. Now Tim's got to play Missile Envy for ops, which is disappointing because it was safe. And just a 1-op here should overprotect Nigeria. Yeah, and this is annoying. So there goes puppets. That'll stop the double. And then Tim can 5-year plan nuke subs. Oh, and then finally, special event happens. So Tim can 5-year plan nuke subs, or he can hang on to 5-year plan. Given the state of Europe, you could advocate for that. So setting up Dom, setting up presenceless Dom in Central and then setting up another Dom in South makes sense. But you're going to give up the key 3rd battleground in Africa. So Scott can coup here, but then the Americas are in rough shape. He could coup Guatemala, stop Dom in Central, set up realigns on Mexico, but then Africa and South America are in rough shape. Okay, now we're going to see a coup. I'm assuming a battleground coup. Yeah, just going to go Angola, roll a 2, stops the Dom in Africa. Portuguese is gone, discarded a Quagmire. But there's South African. 3 scoring cards in Tim's hand and 3 scoring cards that probably he would have wanted to see. So Tim might be tempted to purge here, but I don't think you probably want to do that. Missile Envy is gone, so doesn't have to worry about it getting sniped with Missile Envy. I think South African is better because Tim is going to need the ops of purge here. He might also be playing China. We'll see. Yeah, so Tim is going to want to. We'll see if Scott has grain or voice or other headlines to make Tim's life miserable. But Tim's going to want to get that Central America Dom off. That's going to be 3 for Dom, 4, 5, 6 as it stands. Southeast Asia looks good for Tim as well. That's going to be 3 right now. And then Africa right now is -1 for Tim. But if he can get an Angola flip, he's got a great chance to score a Dom there. Scott thinking hard here, suggests that he doesn't have grain. I would think grain, especially against South African unrest, would be a no-brainer headline. VOA also a good headline here, but probably might be thinking about how best to deploy it. It would more be annoying than devastating on this board. VOA could flip Lao, which would be interesting. Stop Dom in Asia and be a 2 VP swing in Southeast. VOA could remove Tim from Zaire, although if Tim just coups Angola, that's not really a concern. Yeah, some discussion on whether to go Botswana or Angola with the South African unrest ops. And there is VOA. So how's he going to use it? I wonder if 2 Lao is going to be a thing. 1 Mexico, 2 Lao, and 1 Uruguay. Okay. So yeah, so now Tim with the ops, he could score a Central Dom if he wants one. But now Asia, he no longer dominates Asia. He no longer dominates South America. I think you have to take a 1-op coup here of Angola and not roll a 1. I think that's what you have to do. Okay, thinking of fixing and giving up the coup. Okay. All right. I might have taken the coup there, but okay. So Scott presumably will take a coup here. But and Tim has got, boy, he has 3 scorings and 3 1s. So presumably he eats a coup here. He's going to want to score Central. I don't know that Tim would just realign right away. CIA is gone. It's removed. So if you're Scott here, you could have South America in your hand. You might have Asia in his hand as well. But I don't think scoring Asia is a rush. You can coup here, but Tim has made it so you can't really can't dump South America if he has it. If you coup in Angola, Tim has 3 strong realign targets, so you could see a series of realigns with China. Okay, so here comes the coup. Going to coup Angola. All right, that was a bad roll, but just enough. I don't think Tim is going to probably want to spend 4 ops to flip that, but maybe he will. Okay, just going to get Central off. That makes sense. Collect 6 VP now. Yeah, cultural is gone, but the other 2 China events are around, yes. Okay, lads should be Paraguay. Yep. Okay, protects Argentina. Tim tries the... Oh, my goodness, and he misses on the roll. Oh, he had 2 rolls at +1. The first one knocked 1 out. Then he had a roll at +2, and he missed that one. That's a huge, huge miss. And a potential turning point in this game. Now, a simple coup of Saharan gives Scott Dom. Now, I don't think he's going to do that because with Angola just sitting there at 1. I think even though both Angola events are gone, I think Scott. Oh, he's going to just dump Asia. Okay. Tim decides to dump Southeast. It does not want to jam China into Angola and flip it and take Dom. Interesting. Because if you do that and then Saharan gets cooed, yeah, okay, so Tim really holding on to China, going to give up the 1 VP. Okay, and now Tim at this point needs mill ops. So I guess we could see a couple of 1-op coups. We'll see. Oh, well, I think we know Tim's response to that. Yep, and so now you're going to lose Peru, and I think you got to take a 1-op coup there. Okay, Panama event. It's a good event, but not an immediate threat. This, I think, should be Paraguay. Yeah. Oh, a 6. Big roll. And how I learned for a nice 4 VPs. That hurts. Okay, South America comes as well as Europe. So this is what I like to call a lot of good, a lot of bad. So South America and Brush, both very nice. Junta and ABM are gone. So that's so Brush could get you a presenceless control in South America for 10 VP. You cannot, unfortunately, Brush Italy with NATO in effect. Grain obviously has to be spaced. Decall is a strong headline, but it doesn't affect either of the unscored regions. I'm sure that, well, I'm not sure, but Tim may be worrying about defectors. And I'm sure he would like to not have to worry about defectors. Yeah, he's checking for it. And he's not finding it in the discard, so he does not want to give up Brush to defectors. OAS could be a little bit of an issue for Tim. Panama Junta puppets gone, but OAS could be a problem for him. That VOA flipping Lao ended up being huge. If Tim keeps Lao, that's 4 for Asia Dom, and then another 2 in Southeast. The VP track would be pretty much even. I'm not sure how blue the deck is. I don't count cards. I don't meticulously count cards when I comment, but I will say that we've seen Grain, Voice, CRG, Puppets, and we haven't seen OPEC. We haven't seen Muslims. We have seen Quagmire. We have on Tim's side, we haven't, or excuse me, on Scott's side, we haven't seen Kennedy. So that is a consideration as well. So yeah, gonna go ahead. Tim decides he's gonna go ahead and take his 5 in South with DEFCON sitting way up there at 5. So Scott's got a decision to make. He could take a coup in Africa, lower DEFCON to 4. That gets him 2 coups to Tim's 1. He could fix the damage in Southeast and Angola, which is, yeah, that's exactly what he's going to do. Puts another one into Poland, and that's important because Warsaw is gone. NATO protects Poland from realigns, but only if the U.S. controls it. Tim could realign Poland right now at +2. I don't think I would do that, but he could. Tim is not someone who's in a position to fight off Europe domination, so I think he's probably accepted and he's going to get dominated there. Now you could do the 5D chess play, which is you trigger Grain, hope it doesn't hit Salt. Then you Salt for 5-year plan. Now you're down a card and you 5-year plan away Europe. That's not going to work because bear traps are around. So Scott will sniff that play out. But okay, Scott decides to take a coup. Tim not going to event Salt. Just takes a coup of his own, flips Angola. And there's Bear Trap for the final coup. And now we'll see. This seems like a good time for Brush War. Although, yeah, okay, going to brush Argentina. And Africa looks quite bad if you're Tim. Tim's going to have to give up another 5 in Europe. Going to have to space Grain. I guess he's spacing Grain sales, holding Nixon. Don't believe we've seen Lone Gunman yet. There were plenty of opportunities for Scott to get rid of it there, and he did not, so he likely does not have it. And Tim has been incredibly reticent to give up China. He had an opportunity to score an Africa Dom if he'd been willing to give up China there. He did not. So I guess Tim, I would suspect Tim's going to play, well, obviously he has to score Europe, space Grain, he'll hold Nixon. And there goes arms race. Yeah, doesn't want to see a poke of West Germany. With Europe the only region unscored. Tim's going to go ahead and give him his 5. So Laos, a very important country here in Asia. It would change the domination situation. But Tim, behind in Africa, Scott threatening control. Tim's going to be behind in the Middle East, going to be behind in Europe, but way, way ahead in the Americas. So which scorings are going to come out in the late war, and when will they come out? And obviously war games could be huge as well. So we will see. Okay, big 4-op. So gonna break Mexico. Interesting. Space Nixon and hold grain. And he also goes into Tunisia, suggesting perhaps a prep for Muslim. But I don't think he would. He doesn't have to give Muslim here. Okay, Tim was way ahead in Central, and now Central is even. So Tim at this point, his only strong region is South. Okay, and Tim gets Ussuri, so he gets so he can. So yeah, okay. Tim gets Ussuri, but he also gets Kennedy. Scott gets Gunman. So the question is there a path to sticking Scott with Gunman? So yeah, Tim wants to get rid of. He can't give Kennedy. That's the issue. He cannot give. Yeah, he can't give Kennedy. Obviously, can't give Grain. So I think he's going to have to give up Ussuri. Tim at this point is pretty well behind in this game. Scott with 3 dominations on the board, up 6 VPs. Tim has not a terrible hand, but a tricky one to manage here. Yeah, and Tim's saying, yeah, if Scott doesn't have headline peak, then Scott maybe does not headline Gunman if Tim doesn't headline the Greater, but certainly at this point, Scott would headline Gunman if he could. Tim obviously making sure he can't, and he's going to have to give up China. And then Tim, yeah, could go with Grain AR1, and then UN one of Ussuri and Kennedy space the other, hoping, of course, that Grain doesn't hit one of those cards. Scott is showing as offline, so perhaps he had an internet connection issue. And he's back. Special redraw. So, yeah, Tim's play of Duck for Ops instead of getting rid of NATO has cost him 4 VP in special. Okay, goes Costa Rica. Not quite sure what that is for. I guess it's to stop realigns. OPEC. Yeah, that's just going to be 1. I would assume Tim's got to just fix that and he'll want to fix that, take Saudi. No, okay, gonna snake his way up into Cuba perhaps. Yeah, I think this is fine. Scott also has Muslims in his hand to deal with. And there it is. Yeah, I think he'll just replace those. At least replace Libya, not necessarily Egypt. Okay, yeah, going to replace Egypt, take Dom back. Thinking of Space Grain. Tim hits. Okay, so there goes Headline Peak. Okay, well, we will bury you. So, yeah, I had to give OPEC and Muslims. All right, so Tim now, he's going to have to UN Kennedy and give Ussuri. Or obviously he could give China and hold Ussuri, but I don't think face up versus face down is that big a deal here. If we were going to do this, I like the Nicaragua play first. Scott's still threatening control in Africa. Blockade was headlined turn 1, and it's gone. Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. So, yeah. Now, so going to UN Ussuri and flip Lao with the idea of playing China. Because he's clearly not giving Kennedy. So both of the China card, all of the China card events are now gone. And Scott and Tim gives Kennedy. Very interesting. Okay. A little surprised to see him do that rather than give China maintain some hope of DEFCON. Oh my goodness! And he gets Aldrich and terrorism turn 8. Wow. And no headline peak anymore for Scott. So Tim doesn't have a degrader, but it's unlikely with China, very unlikely with China, he would headline gunman. Wow. Very surprised. Okay, well, we'll see if he would have had an out anyway. So, okay, so Bear Trap would have probably been the headline if he had been stuck with gunmen. Scott breaks into South America. Tim now he's going to probably want to set up realigns. But he's also got to worry. Well, he does not have to worry about war games, obviously. He just saw Scott's hand. Scott does not have it. IP War needs a 6. Space is important here as well, but Tim can't space any of the cards that he wants to space. So Asia country count is interesting to watch here. Colombia seems like a country that needs to be taken on this AR. Fidel is a good event. Pershing's a decent event. Yeah, this is fine. Hostage Crisis is in Tim's hand and will definitely be going to space. Or excuse me, is in Scott's hand. Okay, and Scott just tries the coup on Colombia, rolls a 1, but even a big roll wouldn't have done much, and so Scott is able to take control back in South America. And here we go. Scott hits the space roll, and I don't know that Tim was probably going to contest that. Tim needed a 6 on that roll, so that was a bit of a prayer. Camp David puts Scott back up to 11 VPs. Ooh, Reformer and Libs go by the wayside. Along with Lads and Purge. Okay. Neither player needs mill-ops. I might try and do something. I might overprotect Lao here. Maybe get one to Malaysia. Maybe get one into Taiwan. Now, okay, just going to overprotect the battlegrounds there. Okay, at this point, Pershing could fill Taiwan here to restore Asia Dom. Formosan's also in effect, so let's snuff that out. All right, yeah, has gotten all he can from special. He's gotten 4 VPs out of it, so now takes Canada to activate NORAD. That coup will stop Dom, and then Tim has got to decide what he wants to do. Yeah, he's going to hold on to Nixon. Worth noting, Italy is sitting there at 3. So Reformer is gone, but Sock Govs is around. And there's Africa scoring, which is not what Tim wanted to see. And some garbage, although he does get 5-year plan, so can use 5-year plan to dump Africa. Iran-Iraq war doesn't really do anything for you. You need a 6 to flip. So I guess Tim's been trying that in this game without any success. We'll see if he hits it this time. And no war games in Tim's hands, so needs to dodge that. No war games and no way to stop war games. Oh, Bert the Turtle for 3 VPs and denying the coup. Rolls a 5, just 1 short of where he needed to be. Oh, man, this hand is so terrible. Yeah, I might consider one small step event just to turn off Star Wars. But we'll see if Scott has war games. And sure enough, he does. So, nice win for Scott. Scott improves to 5-1 in Atlantic League. Tim will fall to 3-2, but Tim's still in position to. Tim's still very much in contention here in Atlantic League. So Scott wins with a turn 9 war games. Yeah, Scott at 5-1. And Tim now 3-2, tied with Wu Lee, and Harry Wu is 4-1. So it's going to be a tight race in Group A. We'll see how things shake out. But thank you to Tim for providing the game and sending it over. And thank you all for tuning in. This was a fun one. I'll be back tomorrow with another recorded Atlantic League game. Ryan Pindelik and Browning Gentry. So please tune in then. Until next time, this is Justin Abramson. That was fun, but now it's done. So long, everybody.